This is turning out to be my lucky year already. Straight after driving my friend's Lamborghini Reventon Roadster, one of only 15, giving chase to something else extraordinary from his collection. And now, despite today being pretty dreary up here in Scotland, my friend has allowed me to take the keys to this. The Singer DLS, the dynamics and lightweighting study. This is the Peppermint Commission in the extraordinary peppermint green paintwork. Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel, where today is my first ever drive in a Singer. And not just any Singer, but the DLS. Let's find out all about it and go experience what this car is like. I don't really know where to begin with this, but we are literally between rain showers on a day that is far from the best. But today is about celebrating this. The Singer is a reimagined 964. This is quite literally a 1990 car, but completely redone from the ground up. It has the original chassis, the original block, but beyond that, to create the DLS, they specifically worked with the best of the best. The engine is with Williams Advanced Engineering, the F1 team, the seats with Recaro, the tyres with Michelin, the steering wheel with Momo, the brakes with Brembo, you name it, and we're going to go through all of that. There's a lot to take in, and there are some exceptional details with this thing, and despite the fact that it is now raining again, it needs to be celebrated. The hills need to come alive. The sound of this is to die for. Let's dig into it, take in all the details of the DLS, and then get out there and go drive it. Ignoring that the heavens are currently opening and the clouds are pretty grey to say the least, this thing stands out a mile away. We are not going to let the weather spoil the fun, because this is the Singer DLS, and this particular car is the Peppermint Commission, named after the peppermint green paint colour, which on a day like today, honestly, is just brilliant. It's a very bespoke build. In fact, every Singer vehicle is commissioned and given a name. They take the 964 generation 911s, of course, a generation that was very loved, of the most famous of Porsche's models, and completely start from the ground up. Everything effectively is new, except for basically taking the original chassis to retain the VIN and keeping it as a car that's 30 or so years old. Now, this particular car is the DLS, the flagship until the arrival of the DLS Turbo, and then there's also a new model on the horizon, the Turbo Study as well. But this is, as the name suggests, the dynamics and lightweighting study, working with the very best partners, from the engine to all of the components, full carbon fibre body, to make the ultimate car possible. And I want to pick out a few design elements that really stand out, ignoring the very low, very wide body that the car wears at the front here. Look at this. This is, of course, an opening. It is to do with the cooling for the brakes, the Brembo brakes, which had to be created for the 17-inch wheels that this car wears, matching the performance and effectively specification of the Bugatti Chiron, but for this car, which weighs next to nothing, less than 1,000 kilos. Not only that, Michelin had to produce a new tyre, a new Cup 2, 17-inch again, but bespoke for this vehicle, working, as I said, with the best partners. Look back here. Look at the shape and form of this glass and the openings for the cooling through towards the engine. Now, speaking of the engine, let me pop open the doors. We'll have a quick glimpse at the interior. We're going to go through this in more detail later, because if I pop this open and come back around to lift up this ducktail, by the way, again, reformed from before, very much aero tested to increase the height, increase the angle, add the gurney flap at the back to help with downforce as well. To pop this open, have a look at the air-cooled 4-litre flat 6 back here, 500 odd horsepower out of this magnesium fan. You definitely do not want to put your fingers in there when it's running, but look at that, a work of art. The plaque here for the engine from Williams Advanced Engineering, the carbon fibre components, everything done to be as light as possible. But if you don't know what that little badge means, you might just think you're looking at a regular 964, but no, this is something from another dimension. Let me come round to take a step inside. Even, by the way, just things like the fuel cap here. We're going to pop open the bonnet because underneath there are some very cool things to show you a little bit later on. I need to get out of the rain as fast as possible though, because it is quickly getting worse. I mean, look at the X-brace that you have through the door frame here. The steering wheel from Momo. Look at the dials, the 5 dials of this dashboard. The gear shifter here with the exposed linkage down below is just a work of art. Everything feels phenomenal. I mean, look around at all of the body colour brought inside, the harnesses mounted back there, the built-in cage that the car actually has throughout the pillars that surround you. Just this alone, this is a complete delight. Now, the key to show you what's in my pocket quickly, is actually in this little pouch, which is really quite nice. This leather pouch, again, matched to the specification of each individual car. Pop it open, you've got the secondary key as well for the fuel flap, but I'm going to pull this out because I want to pop it in here. Pop the key in if I can do that. We'll turn it on. You wait until that blue light goes from in front, and then take a listen to this, because the start alone of this is a special sound. The way it revs, it goes up to 9,300 RPM. We have AC, there's more that I want to talk about in here as well, and the controls, that's your radio, for example. But we need to get the AC running, because I'm now stood inside, or sat inside, with a wet jacket, and that's not helping the car very much, before it's going to be time to head out and go drive this. I've got to apologise that I have the heater blowing on full. It is very cold. It is not ideal weather for driving something like this, but here we go. Let's roll on out with the Sterato that's actually going to be following behind. Here we are, Singer DLS. Now what you have to remember is that this is a really different machine to the original Singer cars. This is really chasing lightweight, performance, dynamic drive, and I've driven to the location where we are now, which thankfully was a little bit drier than it is now. Unfortunately, I can't control that small little problem that we have today, and just wait for what's coming up. The sound of this is unlike anything else. Now you do have things like the lift system, give that a pull, the axle lift raises. You have to be incredibly gradual with the clutch. In some ways it's like driving a Carrera GT. Just lift up on the clutch, then go onto the throttle. This will automatically go back down at 20 miles per hour, or of course, use one of the very few switches that are inside here, and you start to hear already, we're going 20 miles an hour at 2,000 RPM. The sound of this, it is so much about the visceral experience, and on these kind of Scottish roads, this is one of the ultimate places to drive and enjoy it. Now we're in normal mode at the moment. When you go up into sport, it gets a little bit more lively, a little bit more sound as well, but at slow speeds there's no denying that it likes to grab and move you around a bit. You feel very connected to this thing. It is raw, it requires a proper shift, but it starts to feel very, very exciting. And that's what something like this is supposed to be. I mean, look at these roads. It feels small on the road despite quite how wide it is on the rear axle as well. I'm just easing into things, considering the fact that it's very cold, very wet, and let's just say this car is worth a couple of £1 million, dollars, euros, whichever way you want to look at it. Just low revs, 3,500 RPM, you can hear so much of it. It is about this symphony of sound, of noise, 4,000 RPM. We're going to build up into this slightly, just get used to it, just get into the flow of driving it, because I mean, just listen to this. Now, to change driving modes, you have this selector here. Twist it to the right, it goes into sport mode. I've got a light that lets me know on the dash. You have track mode as well, but that starts to turn off all of your safety systems. And I'm not sure today I quite fancy that. I mean, just listen to this as I try and avoid the potential for aquaplaning through big puddles. This puts a massive smile on your face instantly. Whatever you're doing, whatever you think, and I can tell you from following it before that the sound behind is out of this world. 5,000 RPM, 5,500. You start to see where this is going. This is really combining the best of the best to create the ultimate driver car. And Singer started doing this probably a decade ago or so now, and really have shown everyone how to do it. Fourth gear, deliver a little bit more power. It just revs out and out, keeps on going over these roads. Honestly, you almost want to cry with excitement driving it. It's so perfect as well. There's nothing I can flaw with this. It's a brand new car, despite the fact that it's 34 years old now, this particular chassis. It's all new. Everything you touch is new. I love this feel of the small steering wheel. The dials look beautiful, although admittedly quite hard to see behind the hand grips, the speedometer. Not sure that necessarily matters. Maybe the idea when you're at the wheel of the DLS is that you don't really need to look at that because you're just out for a drive, enjoying what you're doing. But the pedals, also slightly offset for a right-hand drive car. They are positioned slightly into the middle, which does take a small moment. You put your foot in place and you think you're on the brake, but you're actually on the throttle for about a second, and then you realise, wait a second, that's wrong. I should probably get this right. But just driving along, the ride is firm, but not uncomfortably firm. Like I said, it wants to move you around a little bit. There's a lot going on. It's set up very aggressively. Feels in some ways like my McLaren Senna did from that perspective. Every ridge or rut on the road, the car is telling you, hey, you know, watch out, this is here. As much as I would love to go full throttle and give it all of the beans, I also saw a car with four-wheel drive in a ditch yesterday, and I don't fancy that being us today. We don't want to be a statistic that wouldn't be very positive, should we say. Just driving through the trees now, though, conscious it's greasy out here. The steering is heavy, it's firm. You have to tug at it a little bit. Gosh, this is a wet and sketchy road that I'm very aware of. Makes some unusual noises, that little squirt you get on flipping the downshifts as well. The Sterato is by far the most sensible car for this kind of weather, for rough roads through Scotland. But hey, on a day like today, you roll with it, you enjoy it, you grab the car by the reins and go out and have a little bit of fun. I was hoping that the weather was going to get better as we reach 6,000 RPM. We could start to do a little bit more of that. Alas, no, massive amounts of water on the road, yep. I don't think it's going to go in my favour, unfortunately. I've just got to enjoy the car as I can today, having some fun with it, but safe and sensible fun. 6,500, it really is. Build up, ease into it, make sure I know what I'm doing. It's just brilliant. The steering is beautiful, incredibly rewarding. It's one of those times, 7,000 RPM, that I just feel like the only thing you could critique about this is if you don't like older Porsches, or if you don't like the idea of spending a few million quid on a car. Because outside of that, they go to the nth degree. What I've heard about Singer from customers is that any questions or issues or concerns or anything, they are there. They will fix it. They will make it right. They will ensure that they stand by their product, which is such a unique thing because many smaller brands struggle with that. It's a difficult challenge that you see across the hypercar landscape, conscious of puddles and oncoming car. We're good. We've escaped unscathed. This is really quickly turned into not the day. It was forecast to be clear and dry this afternoon, so we were like, yeah, let's take the DLS out. And we left from the garage and, you know, everything was going swimmingly, excuse the pun. And yeah, pulled over, and very soon thereafter, nope. The weather gods had different ideas, so I apologise for the rain on the window, the challenge of the focus on the camera, everything about it, but you know what? I am having a whale of a time out here driving this at the moment. Second gear, that's 8,000, 8,000 RPM, and it just feels like it keeps going, celebrates what it's all about. Decades of Porsche's immense flat six, now taken even further by a team that know a thing or two. I mean, just wow, how can you not be blown away driving this thing? A little bit conscious of where the road goes. Oh, it's silly. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. do. Hot property in high demand, very long wait list. I think Singer's wait list is like 5 or 6 years, or probably even more than that by now. Yeah, what can I say? This is just unbelievable. Let's see if we get better luck going this way. So, second gear, let's hear it through. That's over 9,000 RPM. This is one of those cars where you don't really need to say so much. You just let the sound of it do the talking. And second gear, listen to this. Spine tingling. You feel it through every part of you. Not quite as obnoxious as like the GT2 RS, which has those intakes right beside you as well, but the sound out of that is, with the top 1000 RPM, is almost, I want to say, too much. In this, it's slightly less extreme. But that is like the best of the best. The proper air-cooled 911 generation, unleashed with modern technology. Lightest weight components, the very best components. Just makes me want to slow it down, drop it down a gear. Just listen to the revs, just enjoy it. This is a car that you're going to take it out and just, that's going to be the best day of the week. You know, just going to drive this car is going to put a smile on your face. I just enjoying it. And you know, there are some funny quirks for sure about it. I've definitely found the rain cloud again, but it's so far, I think, ahead of anything else that's tried to replicate. And it's a funny industry almost, because you have Gunther Works, you have Tuthill, you have so many others doing this now, and those are just the 911s. Obviously there are resto mods of so many different varieties now, looking back at legendary cars. Even, you know, Mercedes getting in on the act with HWA, making a new Evo 2, 190 Evo 2. And obviously that's due to customer demand. Alphaholics, the list just goes on and on. Eccentrica, I don't know where to stop. But the idea with this is that I think really Singer were one of the first, if not the first, to do this. And the way that they did it, and to do it, is unsurpassed. It is the best of its kind, and it is such a delight to drive. The clutch is firm but forgiving. The throttle pedal is responsive but not overly responsive, like the STO, for example, modern cars. Steering, again, like I said, firm but just right, not too much. Everything has clearly been done properly, and that is something that has to be acclaimed. That is something that has to be appreciated. I just wish I was driving it on a dry, sunny day rather than the mess that I am actually facing today. Down to third gear. Just to apologise that we're not going to have any exterior flyby clips of this. You can probably appreciate that the weather today is not supportive of standing at the side of the road. It's also very cold, so yeah, we'll have to give that one a little bit of a miss. But from a driving perspective, which at the end of the day is what this is about, I just wanted to share the feedback and what the experience is actually about when you're at the wheel of this thing, because not many of these do get driven like this. I have to say, customers of the Singers have been remarkable in terms of using them, because the original car, the original Reimagined 964, was such a usable creation. Yes, incredibly expensive, obviously not as expensive as they are now when it comes to this, but it started as something that could be like a modern daily, but with the looks and charm and character of something from generations back. Trust me, this is now really wet. This is really wet and puddly. I've got to say that my friend, who has this incredible Lamborghini collection here in Scotland, is an absolute legend for letting me drive this today. I very much appreciate that, given it will need a serious detailing afterwards, but he's of the philosophy that these are cars to drive, to enjoy, to use, to get out there, and I respect that so much because it's what I love doing with these cars. Of course, cars have become investments in recent years for many people, but at the end of the day, they're cars, right? They're for driving, they're for enjoying, they're for using. It's what they were engineered for, it's what they were built for, and it's what we should do with them. And although I'm getting tugged everywhere on the road here, literally every single rut is pulling me all over the place, it's still a smile on the face. It's a little bit on the edge of the seat. It's a little bit questioning whether this was a sane decision to bring this out today, but I think it's a unique experience. I mean, this is getting really heavy. Oh my gosh. Memo to self, don't drive a Singer DLS in pouring rain. Not recommended, not the best. We are back in the garage, and I apologise that it's quite dark, but I do want to show you a few more things and details about the interior of this car. For example, just how open the dashboard is. This is literally straight through. I'm not sure if you can quite tell behind the dials. Obviously minimising material saves weight. Simplicity. Look at the controls. Literally here, 4 toggles. Your lift system, a blanking plate, we'll get to that, your hazards and your fog light. This would be for your heated windscreen, an option. If you don't have it, you have a blanking plate. Perhaps that could be removed. Nice thing, or just play with it, put something fun on there. This is your audio control. It's a Bluetooth sound system. The speakers are actually pretty decent, obviously blinking away looking for a Bluetooth device at the moment, but all operated through here with the volume on your phone. Next track, last track, twist it, nice and easy. Simple, no big old school looking device. We've got the climate control just here, on off, simple settings, temperature controls, everything just there. Central tunnel looks magnificent. This is your mode selector, so you hold it to the side to go up to sport, or then one more to go into track, or turn it back down and you go via the different settings back to normal. Your handbrake in the center, again, just nicely finished all around. Everything shaped and presented beautifully. I mean, look at the seats. Obviously this is all individually speccable, but these Recaro seats that we have here, with this pull to slide it forwards and backwards, which is just nice detail, or you've got the lever underneath at the front as well. Obviously these heritage style details inserted into it. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, just look behind. That cross brace and the view that you have is really very cool. No seats back there, just the basic area for luggage. Obviously the 964s could be had in configurations with seats, but not the DLS, because that would make absolutely no sense with it whatsoever. The dashboard, it's about a prominent rev counter. I mean, look at that right in the center, over 9,000 RPM, the core information you need, your temperatures, pressures off to the left, fuel tank, oil, and then over to the right, we've got the analog speedometer and the modes and things. So it's all pretty simple, but effective. Exactly what you want from something like this. The steering wheel with these cutouts. I mean, you see cutouts all over the car. For example, right here, even through the middle of the shifter. Not entirely sure why, other than weight saving. And weight saving makes a lot of sense when it comes to something like this. Even door pockets, you know, there's no door card really here, but these open areas mean you can tuck things in, you can stow some things into those areas without it having the full extra weight of a second skin. And I really enjoy and appreciate the colour that you have coming through. To bring this peppermint into the interior like this is just the icing on the cake. A very, very nicely presented machine. Now, I want to step out because there are a few other things to show you here. I mentioned the front, obviously the frunk, the luggage storage space. Now, to come and pop this open, on the passenger side where you have the engine bay release, at the back, at the front, you have a pull just underneath the dashboard to open this up, where inside is something quite fun to show you. Now, it catches right in the center, obviously very light because the lid is carbon fiber, of course. The bodywork is all carbon. There's a beautiful bag which actually contains the car cover. The whole area and space of this is beautifully presented. Even back here, these are your manually adjustable suspension settings. We're actually running in one of the softer ends of the spectrum for this. You could make it significantly firmer. You have this cover up here. Not really a whole lot going on, just again though emphasizing how it's all presented in a really top way. Even the fuel filler cap in the center, which obviously you access from outside, but you simply unscrew this. Not sure which way you turn it. That way, this just comes out. And again, everything about this car, it's just the quality in the way every single thing is finished. And then there's a secondary key, which you have the key for in the pouch that I showed you earlier. Let me twist that back into place because I want to show you what's in this box. Now, I apologize that it's a little bit dark in here. We've got to do what we've got to do because outside it's wet. But inside here, talking of wet, are the pieces that you insert in the side intakes if you're washing the car, so that you don't completely fill them with water. And yes, it is fine if you're just out driving and it's not too much. But this, I'm going to carefully put that there to come and show you. I think I've got the one for the right side, which says remove prior to starting engine, which is quite fun. These literally insert in here, in this cutout of the glass, like that, to protect from spraying too much water in if you're jet washing the car. I don't know how necessary it is, but I love that they exist. Almost like the things you'd put in shoes to help them keep their shape. So that's provided, obviously, with the car, along with all of the other details and things. And then underneath here, this is where you have the floor with the battery and things accessible beneath. We don't need to go in there for the time being, but I think you get the point. I mean, down here, what do we have? The two plaques, DLS, Dynamics and Lightweighting Study, a relentless pursuit of excellence through a lightweight philosophy. And then on this side, Peppermint, the commission name of this particular car. So you can see the 1990 Porsche 911 Reimagined by Singer. It is a really fascinating thing to experience. It's a car that I really liken to, say, 35 years ago, building a GT2 RS, but with the technology of the future of what we have now. That's what this is of the 964. This is a GT2 RS 964 with the latest modern tech. And as a result, it's a masterpiece. It's a glorious thing to drive. It's a wonderful experience. And even though today's weather was as inclement as it gets, I've still had a lot of fun and very much enjoyed it. So I guess we're going to wrap it up for there. Thank you very much to my friend for the opportunity to come out, drive the Reventon Roadster, to drive the Singer DLS, despite the weather outside. Not a bad way to start the year. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. That's it for this time, though, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!